Hey there, here we are again, footy fans. Let's have some footy fun with FootyFin. And look, it is Saturday morning of round 25. Firstly, RIP to the Parramatta Eels. The Eels were beaten pretty easily by the Roosters last night, as I predicted. And this basically puts an end to their finals hopes. And it's a bit of a sad tale because, of course, they bolted into the grand final last year. And to go from that and not even make the eight is a real downturn, a slippery slope. Look, I don't want to say I told you so, but back in I think week 2 of this season, I did a video on this topic, and I figured the Eels had already peaked last year. Pretty disappointing. Anyway, moving on. Who can still survive? And it's this ever-evolving question, and in fact, there still remain 4 crunch games. One this weekend, that will still determine how things pan out in terms of the top 8. The Cowboys were beaten pretty soundly up in Townsville by the Sharks last Thursday, and the Cowboys, I've got a Cowboys hat on here, they are really on the wood. They are really in trouble, and I'll tell you why. They've got 2 games left, so they're sitting in 9th on 30 points, 28 rather. Their for and against is just in the positive at 12. They play the Dolphins in Brisbane next weekend. They're no guarantee to win that, but I'm tipping them to win. However, in round 27, they face the Penrith Panthers away. The Cowboys are not going to win that one. So even if the Cowboys beat the Dolphins, they finish on 30. And I don't think that's enough. So, look, the Cowboys had a very slow start to this season. They only really hit their straps around Origin time, funnily enough. And I think they might have just left their run too late, and they've sort of petered out a bit in these last few rounds, so the Cowboys are on notice. The Roosters, despite having a win last night, they're equal with the Cowboys and with Souths on 28 points at the moment. The Roosters have a bad for and against. They're negative 62. They do face the Tigers next weekend, and they will surely win that one, even though they'll be missing James Tedesco, their skipper, due to the head injury protocols. He picked up a HIA Category 1 last night. Well, it wasn't a HIA because he has the assessment. Well, he got an assessment. It was rated Category 1. He's picked up a concussion, basically. All right. And then they'll beat the Tigers, surely. That'll put them on 30 points, but a bad for and against. Then they face massive rivals, Souths, in round 27, and that's one of the crunch matches. Of course, with the Newcastle Knights, they're sitting in 7th on 29 points. They've got the crunch game at home against Souths tomorrow, Sunday afternoon. And then they've got another crunch home game against the resurgent Cronulla Sharks next weekend. And then they'll finish with a game against the Dragons away. So surely they'll beat the Dragons. That'll put them on 31 points. That might just be enough to scrape through. They've got a healthy for and against on 110. If they can win one of those 2 crunch matches, either Souths tomorrow or Cronulla next week, that'll put them on 33, and they'll surely make the 8. But anyway, so 2 crunch matches for the Knights. What else have we got? So round 27 of the other crunch matches. We've got the oldest rivalry in rugby league in Australia, really, Souths versus Easts. The Rabbitohs versus what are now called the Sydney Roosters. That is, that's a massive rivalry and derby at the best of times. But the stakes are even higher this time around. That could determine whether one or both teams or make the top 8, or whether one of them has their Mad Monday on the 4th of September, along with the Eels and others. So that's going to be critical. Speaking of South, so they're playing Newcastle tomorrow. Crunch game for Newcastle and for South. Souths aren't guaranteed to make the 8. They're sitting in 8 just by virtue of the best for and against versus the Cowboys and the Roosters. In South's favour, they have a bye next weekend. That's a guaranteed 2 points. And at the current time, look, Souths are not in full stride, in top gear at the moment, but you'd probably tip them to beat the Roosters, or if they can beat either Newcastle tomorrow or the Roosters, as well as a bye, that'll put them in at least 32 points. And then lastly, I think, I'm referring to my notes here, lastly, Canberra. Okay, so up till now, I've been sort of assuming Canberra, who were in about 5th, were going to make the 8. Now, that's no guarantee. They had a disappointing loss, I think it was to Melbourne last weekend. They play the Dogs in Canberra tomorrow afternoon. You'd pretty much think they win that. Okay, the thing about Canberra as well is they're for and against. This surprises me, but it's terrible at negative 120. That's the worst of any of these teams I'm looking at. I'm not sure how that happened. A couple of big losses, obviously. Canberra have to face the Broncos next weekend, even though that's in Canberra. I'm not tipping them to win that. And then the final crunch match in round 27 is Canberra versus the Sharks. And that'll be at Shark Park. Based on current form, you'd actually tip the Sharks to win that. So that would leave Canberra going from 30 to 32. Again, they'll probably scrape in, even with only 1 win from 3 from here. But again, that for and against is worrying. Anyway, look, I've rabbited on for long enough now. That's it. That's how things stand. Look forward to the rest of the games this weekend. Hope the Dolphins can have a win and finish the season well. But anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, all of that. And let's see how this shapes up. Stay tuned for the next exciting installment. Until next time, catch you under the crossbar. See ya.